Whatever you do, do not play these superstition games. Unless if you do, let me know what happened. Hey guys, welcome back. I have not done this scary story time in a hot minute. You guys know I do a series of where I read your real ghost encounters. Now today's episode is going to be a little bit different, where I read superstition games that are supposedly real and true, that people have played and they've lived to tell the stories. So if you have ever played a superstition game, let us know in the comments down below what happened, or if you just have scary ghost encounters or just scary stories in general that really happened to you, leave a comment down below so you could be featured in my next video. So the stories I'll be reading today is actually from a new series on MBC. It's called 심야 괴담회 엠두루박두루. It's a show that I'm really enjoying these days, where it's kind of like what I do, where people send their real encounters and the show pretty much recreates and tells their story. And by taking just a second to hit the like button on this video really helps me out a lot, and it just gives me power and cheer on to continue making these videos. So the first real, allegedly real encounter slash game people have played is something called Honsum in Korean, or the hide and seek alone. You're basically playing hide and seek with your own soul. It sounds fake, but if you listen to these instructions, it's very detailed. So it's a game where you get a doll, put your soul intention into it, then stab the doll will get angry and it will try to find you. If you don't let the doll find you, you win the game, but if you lose, you can get your soul taken away by the doll. These are the prohibited list in the game. So number 1, you never put your blood. Number 2, don't name the doll. Number 3, don't stab the doll with a sharp object such as a knife. So in this episode of the 심야 괴담, a man named, a real man that submitted this, his name is Min. Min says that 10 years ago, when he was in high school, he was so into ghost stories and superstitions, like me. So he decided to play a solo hide and seek game, and he found the instructions on the internet while he was browsing. Now, the instructions clearly said do not play, but obviously it made him want to play even more. So he really wanted to play this game, but he was so scared, obviously. So he decided to do this with a friend. Now, this friend's mother was a fortune teller and a Korean shaman, so, you know, obviously Min thought that it would be safe. If anything went wrong, his friend's mother would be there to try and help them. When both of their parents were gone for the day, they decided to play this game. So Min went over his friend's house, let's call him Lee, okay? And Lee had his mother's shaman charm in order to protect themselves during these superstition games. First, they took out the doll's stuffing, the cotton stuffing, and put their nail clips in order to represent their body. But because this game was supposed to be only played by one person, but right now there's 2 people, Lee thought that the spell wouldn't work. So he suggested to put their blood inside in order to amplify the spell. Remember, blood is against the rules. So they took a needle, pricked their little fingers, and put their blood inside the doll. Next, they tied up the doll, and Lee decided to name the doll. Again, that's against the rules, but they decided to name it Min Lee. Next, they needed to wait until it was 3 o'clock, exactly 3. Then they put the doll in a bucket full of water and repeated the spell words. So Min is the first to go. Min is the first to go. Min is the first to go. The next friend, Lee, have to say, Lee is the second to go. Lee is the second to go. Lee is the second to go. You repeat it 3 times. Then you go up to the doll and they said, I found you, Min Lee. I found you, Min Lee. I found you, Min Lee. Lastly, they need to stab the doll. But remember, you're not supposed to stab it with the sharp object like a knife or a scissor. Min was really scared, and Lee was making fun of Min, saying that you're a scary cat. You can't take this. You're not a man. So Min, obviously really young and doesn't want to hurt his ego, they decided to stab the doll with a kitchen knife. They turned off all the lights except the TV and ran into one room in order to hide from the doll, and this is when the game began. They took salt water and held it in their mouth, which was supposed to also amplify and keep the doll away. Well, I guess it was like a protection spell. Nothing happened for a while. 10 minutes passed by, 15 to 20 minutes. But finally, 30 minutes later, they started to hear footsteps. But this footstep was a wet footstep. A couple seconds later, the TV channels started to change rapidly. Rapid TV channels then started to make the words "open the door," which is supposedly how ghosts in other dimensions communicate through signals and through electricity. Then all of a sudden their door started to shake violently, still having the salt water in their mouth. He says that both of them started to kind of lose their minds, and when things went quiet after a couple minutes, they opened the door. They were shocked to find that the doll in the bucket has disappeared. This is when both of the friends, Min and Lee, they just got so spooked. They didn't want to play the game anymore, and they just ran out the apartment. A few hours later, Lee's mother came home. This is when she called the boys right away, yelling at her son, "What did you do? This is dangerous. Come home right now." Supposedly, when the mother came home, remember she's a shaman, she felt a negative spirit right away, and then saw two spirits exactly that looked like Min and Lee, like a replica of them, was standing in front of the door with a knife, as if these two wandering souls wanted to get their revenge. According to the shaman mother, the nail clips represented their consciousness, or pretty much putting their souls into it, and using blood would amplify their soul and consciousness inside the doll. Naming the doll and stabbing it would be a spell telling the doll to please kill me. And supposedly the shaman mother was able to do her thing, such as, her own ritual to get rich, or to kind of reverse the spell that these kids carelessly were playing. So that was a submission by a real man, Mr. Min. He is probably in his late 20s now, and he says that he has never ever after that played any superstition games and stayed out of scary ghost stories. So what do you guys think? Now, the show does have a disclaimer saying that they're not able to fact check these submissions because superstition things are, kind of impossible to fact check. But you guys heard of Ouija boards. I've never played it, but I had a couple friends who played Ouija boards, and they swear that when they play these Ouija boards, they have met these entities, and most of them are dark spirits because, kids don't know how to protect themselves. I guess Ouija boards, certain objects, certain spells of what you say and put out there could attract these negative entities. So the next story is again by Simya Kedam, and the story is called My Friend's Ghost in the River. This story was submitted by a lady named Kyung, or we're gonna call her K, and it happened to her in 1983 when she was just a child. She was 6 years old. So I think she's in her 40s now. She says that she lived in a rural area and only had two other friends. Her two friend was a 7-year-old named Chung and 5-year-old named Young. And every morning, the two friends Chung and Young would come to Kay's house and call her name. "Let's play, Kay Annie." And one of their favorite games was to play jump ropes. It was now the monsoon season in Korea, which is a period where it only rains for like 2-3 weeks straight. I believe this only happens in Asia. Because it was raining hard for about 9 days now, the children couldn't see each other and they became super bored just staying home all day. At the 9th day of the monsoon, the sun was out for a little bit and they all wanted to play outside. They were so excited, they haven't seen each other in a couple of days, and they decided to go play by a waterway. I believe this is like a man-made waterway where it captures like rain and like lake water or something like that. I'm not too experienced by it, but supposedly because it was raining for days, a lot of water was trapped and it was overflowing. So the village keepers decided to let the water gate open and for the water to flow down in order for the gate to not explode in preparation for the next rainfall. So the three friends were playing down below at the waterway, and the adults started to warn the girls to get out of the way since it was dangerous. They were just about to open the gate. The girls were really disappointed because they wanted to play and watch the frogs, but they quickly ran up to get out of the way. Because they were climbing up so fast, the 7-year-old Chung's shoe fell down back to the waterway. She knew that if she lost her shoes, her mom would get really angry. Now, back, in the 80s and living in a rural town, a lot of people didn't have a lot of money, or it wasn't like a consuming society like today where you could just buy something new. A lot of things like shoes were very expensive. But at that moment when Chung was grabbing her shoes, the water gate was opened and thousands of gallons of water flooded down quickly. Unfortunately, it completely drowned the little girl. A while later, they finally found her, but she was found in the next town since this waterway was connected to different towns as well. Unfortunately, the little girl was pronounced dead. That midnight, rain started to pour again. This time, 5-year-old Young was sleeping with her mother, and when the mother woke up the next day, Young was nowhere to be seen. The neighborhood also started to search for Young, and hours later, Young was found in the exact location that Chung was found. So how and why did this 5-year-old Young run out in the midnight in the pouring rain? The neighborhood started to gossip, saying that maybe Chung's spirit decided to take Young. So now there's only one child left. It's Kay. And Kay's mother wanted to protect her child, so they decided to go see a shaman. The shaman warned her, saying, "Your daughter will die too the next time it rains." The shaman told Kay and her mother, "Don't ever respond. When your friends call your name in the middle of the night, don't respond." Then she handed the mother a special paper for protection, kind of like a charm. Kay said she understood, and now the family fell asleep. At some point during the night, Kay started to hear girls' voices. These voices were singing the songs that she always sang with her friends. Although she was told not to, Kay was only 6 years old, and she thought that hearing a friend's voice was welcoming. So she responded. "Hey, is it you guys?" Kay said. The moment Kay responded, her body started being rapidly pulled to the door. She was screaming help for her mother, but it was as if she was in another dimension or state of consciousness that her mother couldn't hear. Kay said that there was a strong force trying to pull her, and she was clinging onto her bed sheets. But all of a sudden, she felt this intense heat in her chest, and she was still hearing her friends outside. Due to the shock, Kay went unconscious. Kay then woke up to her mother crying and holding her. Kay told her mother, "Mom, I heard them. I heard my friends. But I felt this pain in my chest and I fell back asleep." The mother actually put paper, that charm that the shaman gave her, under the daughter's pajamas right in her chest in order to protect her. The shaman also told the mother to put a doll outside of their door, so this is what the mom did before they fell asleep. She ran to the door. When she opened it, she found that the doll she put outside was gone. Supposedly, this doll was put there in order to trick the negative entity to take the doll instead of the human soul. This story gave me chills. I guess the child, because she died so fast, she just felt like she wanted to even grab her friends to take with her to the whatever next world that she was in. Thank you to May May. Why do some objects or spells prevent spirits from leeching onto you? To answer your question, some objects or spells or affirmations protect you, and it kind of blows away spirits. Everything is made out of energy and vibrations. Absolutely. It explains them in quantum physics. I see spirits and entities as energy forms. Energy that has lingered around because of some sort of attachment to a physical object or place or person. We call these entities low vibration entities. Since they aren't meant to be here, they feed off of other energies, especially the ones who are easy targets, like people who don't know how to protect themselves. These objects or spells also have energy, since everything is energy, even air and paper. They repel each other in a sense, like how the same side of a magnet, the energy repel each other. It really depends on the item or tool itself and what its purpose is, but this is just a simple explanation. Thank you, May May. That was a simple explanation. So the last story is actually by a subscriber who commented on my last scary story encounter video. I thought this was really interesting, and how you have to be careful of who you bring into your life, and I've learned that big time. My family used to be a really perfect family. My dad loved my mom so much, and so does my mom. But one day we met a poor old lady. We were going to the park at that time because that's what my dad does in the weekend. She was really nice and stuff like that. Being an open-minded person, my dad invited her to live with us since we're quite wealthy. I was okay with his decision since I was just a kid. My mom also agreed because the old lady can help with babysitting me while my parents were working. But after 6 months, she started to show her odd behavior. Sometimes she doesn't let my mom cook and throw away the rice that my mom made. One day when my parents weren't home, I went to the old lady's bedroom and opened her closet to play. But then I saw a really strange looking yellow fabric. I was about to touch it, but then she got so mad and grabbed my hand really tight and took me out of her room. I told my mom about this and she asked my dad to do something. My grandmother was a religious person, the type of person who could see these type of entities. So she told my mom that the old lady put a black magic on her food that will make her family fall apart. And my grandma also tried to help us, but my dad got really mad for assuming such a thing because he only believed in science. Now my mom and dad are divorced and it's all the lady's fault. We used to be so perfect. My dad is still trying to get my mom back, but my mom already has a new boyfriend and the old lady disappeared. I don't know what happened to her, but I'm still upset at her for taking advantage of my parents' goodness. Whoa. I don't know what black magic in the food means. Maybe she was praying to the food. She was probably putting very, very negative intentions to the food and it affected the family. I do believe that absolutely could happen because it really depends on the person and what their intention is. So if they're really trying to break up a family or bring negative spirits and energy to the house, it definitely can work if you're not protecting yourself. I'm sure there's a lot of people who might be doubting situations like this because a lot of people get divorced, like things might go wrong, you know? But the fact that their grandmother and someone was able to see this energy that this lady was intentionally bringing something to break up the family should have been a little bit of sign. So the moral of the story, in my opinion, is really be careful of who you bring into your life, including friends, including teachers. I mean, it could be anyone around the house. And just like the water crystal experiment or the rice experiment where you talk really bad to the rice or the water, and in the microscope the water crystals actually change depending on what you say. If you say thank you, it's like a nice harmonious balanced crystal. If you say something really bad to it, or if it's from like the tap water that went through a lot of harsh chemical processes, the crystals are destroyed. So just like that, I do believe that whatever you put in your thoughts will manifest into the real life. So again, be careful of what you think to yourself and of what others are trying to do to you. I want to know, do you guys have certain lucky charms or, you know, protective charms that you guys carry? I personally do have certain lucky charms as well. There's this one thing that I always carry with me whenever I'm traveling in order to protect myself. So I personally have, what the hell is that sound? Do you guys hear that? I think a grasshopper entered my house. Thank you so much for watching and see you in my next video.